guys, I'm Ihan. Alright, so today we are going to talk about Section 3, 5, and 6 of Civil Law, the holy trinity of don't mess this up. Section 3 is all about contractual obligations, which basically means read before you sign or prepare to cry. Section 5, this thoughts, aka who do I sue when someone screws me over? And Section 6, property rights, where the rule is simple. What is mine is mine. Don't even think about it. These sessions aren't just legal mumbo jumbo, but they are our ultimate guide to avoid chaos and maybe saving our wallet. But today we are going to focus on Section 5 and Section 6. Ready? Let us dive in.
Are you ready?
3, 2, 1.
Thank you for that brief introduction by my friend Mr. Tan. Now, when it comes to Section 5 of the Civil Law Acts, which revolve around the implementation of English commercial law in Malaysian legal system, it is safe to say that one of the most prominent cases that showcase this act in action is the case of PT Karya Sumedang Indonesia and Ocean Master Marie Sylvain Sedian Berhad and another 2016 MLJ 589. This legal odyssey navigates the turbulent waters of international shipping where contracts are the compass and a misstep can lead to a shipwreck of consequences. Now, let us first delve deeper into the background of this case. Picture this. PT Karya Sumedang Indonesia, a prominent Indonesian industrial firm, entered into a long-term agreement with Jawad and Malik Metal LLC or JMM for the sale of copper wire rods. The deal is set on free on-board term with document against payment conditions, meaning PT Karya hold on to the ownership of the goods until the cash is in hand. Now, JMM, tasked with arranging the shipment, enlists Ocean Master Marie Sylvain Sedian Berhad, a Malaysian non-vessel owning common carrier. Ocean Master intends appoint Sapphire Line Private Limited as its agent. Sapphire issues house bills of landing for each consignment, naming PT Karya as the shipper and JMM as the consignee. These original bills are to be handed over to JMM upon payment, a classic you get the papers when we get the payment scenario. But here where the plot thickens. JMM dropped the balls and failed to make the payment. Yet they cunningly obtained switch bills of landing, essentially replacement bills issued by Super Express Cargo, the delivery agents. Armed with these switch bills, JMM instructed Ocean Master to release the cargo, sidestepping the original bills still held by PT Karya's bank. Upon the cargo arrival in Saudi Arabia, Ocean Master perhaps unwittingly complies with JMM directive and deliver the goods without the original bills of landing. This case, unauthorized handover leave PT Karya empty-handed, prompting them to seek legal recourse against both Ocean Master and Sapphire. Now, before we go on any further, let me first move the spotlight to my friend Ms. Kausi to help us deeper understand the issues surrounding this case. Thank you.
Hi everyone. So today I'm going to talk about the issues related to the application of common law and equity in Malaysia under Section 5. So the first issue is whether the defendant's failure to deliver the goods as agreed constitute a breach of contract under common law. So the decision is the court determined that the defendants were liable for breach of contract due to their failure to deliver the goods as stipulated in the agreement. So the ratio is under Malaysian common law, a breach of occurs when a party fails to perform any term of contract without a legitimate legal excuse. The injured party is entitled to the damages that aim to place them in the position they would have been in had contract been properly executed. And the stare decisis for this case is the court refers to the federal court decision in the case of Sinea and Sons Sendirian Berhad versus Damai Setia Sendirian Berhad 2015 5 MLJ1. Which emphasized that the need for strict adherence to contractual obligations. In the case, the federal court clarified the principles that parties must honor their contractual commitments unless excused by lawful reasons. The application of this precedent underscored the defendants' failure to meet their obligations, affirming that such breaches result in liability for damages. So the second issue was whether equitable remedies such as specific performance or injunctions were appreciated in addition to common law damages. So the decision that court made was the court concluded that equitable remedies were unnecessary as monetary damages were sufficient to compensate the plaintiffs for the losses in court. So the ratio is equitable remedies are discretionary and are typically granted when monetary damages are inadequate to address the harm suffered. In this case, the court found that damages were an adequate remedy. In the stare decisis for this case is the court relied on Bousted Trading 1985 Sandiran Berhad versus Arab Merchant Bank Berhad 1995 3 MLJ 331, so which clarified that equitable remedies are not automatic but are contingent on the inadequacy of damages as a remedy. The precedent established the court must balance the interests of both parties and grant specific performance or injunctions only exceptional cases. Applying this principle, the court decided that damages alone is sufficient to address the plaintiff's losses. Okay, so the third issue for this case was whether the plaintiff's actions or omissions contributed to the delays or mishandling, invoking contributory negligence under equitable doctrines. So the decision was court made was the court accepted the defendant's argument of contributory negligence, resulting in a reduction of the damages awarded to the plaintiff. The ratio was contributory negligence acknowledges that if the plaintiff acts through their own negligence contributed to the harm suffered, the damages recoverability may be reduced proportionally. So the stare decisis for this case is the court refers to the Muhammad Zukairi Abdul Ghaffar versus Quick Chiam Ki 2004 5 MLJ 6, which elaborates on the principles of contributory negligence. In this case, the court explained that when both parties contribute to the harm, the responsible for the damages must be shared. Applying this precedent, the court evaluated the plaintiff's role in the delay or mishandling of goods and found partial contributory negligence, thereby reducing damages awarded. So that's all from me. Thank you so much.
Now, let us talk about the fun part, Mohammedan law. The court ruled that Mohammedan law didn't apply to the property translation here. This case was governed by English law and statutory ordinances, and the hiba ruba didn't clash with Islamic principles. So, despite some potential religious arguments, the sale was still invalid because the formalities wasn't followed under Section 6 of the Civil Law Act.
Now I will continue the presentation by presenting one of the issue of the case of Peter Chong and another and Khatijah binti Imad Ibrahim and another. While the issue needs to be related to the application of common law and equity in Malaysia, the first issue is whether the principles of equity could override statutory requirements under the National Land Code 1965, which mandates strict compliance with registration and procedural formalities for land transfers. The decision made by the court showed that the principles of equity could not override the statutory requirements under the NLC. The court affirmed that the sale and purchase agreements were incapable of being affected under the NLC because of the strict prohibition under sections 205 sub 1 and 240 sub 1A and B against transferring a part of any undivided share in the land. The court upheld the primacy of statutory provisions over equitable considerations. The ratio decidendi of this first issue is the principles of equity cannot override the mandatory statutory requirements under the NLC, which strictly mandate compliance with procedural and registration formalities for any land transaction to be effective. Well, Section 205 sub 1 and 214 sub 1A and B of the NLC expressly prohibit the transfer of an undivided share in land without proper partition of registrations, rendering the purported transaction legally ineffective. Well, other than that, the unilateral execution of the sale and purchase agreements by one joint tenant, which is Aisha, without the consent of the other joint tenant, which is Khatijah, and without compliance with statutory requirements, did not sever the joint tenancy. As a result, the property remained part of the deceased estate upon her death. Now next, the precedent case that related to this first issue is Tan Sri Lan and Engku Nik binti Engku Muda and others that happens back in 1973. The principles of this case is equity in joint tenancy. Well, these principles show that common law protects the integrity of joint tenancy and ensures that co-tenants' rights are preserved unless severance is properly executed. The application of this principle in the case of Peter Chong and Khatijah binti Mat Ibrahim showed that the court must follow the principle, recognizing that Aisha unilateral actions did not sever the joint tenancy and the property interest remained intact until her death. That's all from me. Now I will pass to Farisha to continue the presentation.
Thank you, Dina. So today I'll be discussing a crucial legal issue from the case of Peter Chong and another against Khatijah binti Mat Ibrahim and another. This issue revolves around whether the plaintiff who claimed to have purchased the property could use equitable principles such as specific performance, estoppel, or constructive trust to compel the defendant to complete the transfer of the property. So, what was the issue? The plaintiff argued that they had an agreement with Aisha, one of the original proprietors, to purchase the property. However, the transfer was never fully complete. After Aisha's passing, the defendants representing her estate challenged the claim, arguing that the agreements were not valid under the National Land Code NLC because they did not comply with the required legal formalities. The plaintiff tried to rely on equitable principles, which are meant to ensure fairness, or to argue that since they had already agreed to buy the land, the court should enforce the transaction even if there were some technical shortcomings in the paperwork. So, what did the court decide? The court ruled that the plaintiff could not rely on equity to override clear legal requirements that set by NLC. The agreement between Aisha and plaintiff were declared void because they failed to comply with the strict statutory formalities required for land transfers, particularly proper registration under Section 205 and 214 of the NLC. The court emphasized an important principle, which is equity cannot override statutory law, no matter how fair or reasonable a claim may seem. If a transaction does not comply with legal requirements, it is invalid. Since the agreement in this case did not meet the statutory requirements, the plaintiff could not compel the transfer of the property. So, for the legal precedent which is third decisis, this decision followed the legal precedent set in Riemann bin Mihad, a case that reinforced the importance of adhering to statutory formalities. In that case, the court ruled that land transaction must comply with registration and document requirements, otherwise they are legally void, even if equitable considerations suggest otherwise. So it is similarly in Peter Chong, where the plaintiff reliance on specific performance as estoppel or constructive trust that could not bypass the clear requirement of NLC. The court reaffirmed that legal formalities are crucial in property transaction to ensure certainty, prevent fraud, and uphold the rule of law. So, for the conclusion, this case highlights a significant principle in property law, where strict compliance with statutory requirement is necessary for a valid land transaction, while equity aims to achieve fairness, and it cannot be used to override legal formalities set by the law. This ensures that property ownership remains clear and legally enforceable. That's all from my part. Thank you. I'll pass back to my friend Pan.
So, what's the end of the case? Peter's dreams of owning that land went up in smoke, but at least he got a refund. The second defendant, Aisha's estates, had to give back the benefits that she received under the void agreements. And the first defendant, Khatinja, was off the hook. The lesson here, Section 6 of the Civil Law Act 1956 is the boss when it comes to property transfers. Don't mess with it. If you want to make a property deal, follow the law. No exceptions. And remember, no matter how much you love a piece of land, you can't just go signing contracts without your co-owner's approval. Okay? To sum it all up, Section 3 says, think before you ink. Section 5 screams, if you break it, you pay for it. And Section 6 firmly states, hands off my stuff. Contracts keep you covered. Courts make sure justice isn't optional. And property law reminds you to respect boundaries. So, next time someone tries to cross you, figuratively or literally, you will have the legal arsenal to handle it like a pro. Bear in mind, civil law isn't just rules. It's your cheat sheet to surviving the adulthood. Thank you.